Hello, this is Money Matters. I'm David Crowell, and I'm with Mortgage Network. I'm going to be alone today. My usual partner, Emily Johnson, is traveling away to a financial conference, so I will be presenting on my own. So there are many things to talk about. I'm recording this show on Friday, March 9th, and so it will play for the next 6 or 7 days until the next recording. So when you watch it, you'll get a sense of the timeliness here. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is something that can only be understood if you sort of go back to your college economics class, and specifically to the subject of economic tariffs, trade tariffs. The entire notion of trade protectionism versus open borders, open markets. Trade tariffs do not have a good history either in the world or in the United States. The most famous of the tariffs was in 1929 through 1933, the Smoot-Hawley Act. And the Smoot-Hawley Act greatly imposed an enormous set of tariffs which led to the deepening and prolonging of the terrible economic collapse and recession of the Great Depression. There are many who say that the tariffs not only deepened the recession but also created such worldwide havoc and economic disruption that those specific tariffs actually fostered and gave strength to and led to the rise of Nazism and Hitler in Germany in the same period. What tariffs do is to impose a cost lever or a cost tax on certain goods coming in from other countries. So since World War II, the steel industry in the United States, which is a very strong portion of our economy and also a very important lobbying, a very important lobby group in the United States. Since World War II, the steel producers have been lobbying fiercely for protection from world markets. As other industrialized nations grew in strength, from Japan to India to China, other steel producers who are importing steel into the United States for U.S. manufacturers were able to do so competitively, and then more than competitively at cheaper prices than the United States steelmakers were able to produce. So they have lobbied consistently and successfully since World War II. This is now a period of 70 years of lobbying, and they've gotten those protections. Unfortunately, when you disrupt a pure economic system, a pure capitalist system, what you get are unforeseen consequences and unforeseen beneficiaries. In this case, the steel industry preserved our own steel industry preserved its share of the market, but it did so not by becoming more competitive. It did so because it had protections and tariffs. Instead of using that protection to update its processes and update its technology and to make itself more competitive in line with the most advanced of the Russian, Asian, and Chinese steel producers. What it did was to fatten profits, pay shareholder dividends, and to generally run successful businesses. But these were successful businesses that were supported, as I said, in part by tariff money. What Mr. Trump is has now signed not into law, but as an executive act, is a very substantial tariff on foreign steel, 25% tariff on foreign steel, and a 10% tariff on foreign aluminum. There are, at this time, approximately 160,000 jobs in the U.S. steel industry. The U.S. steel industry, in spite of protections since World War II, has continued to shrink because it simply is not able to effectively compete with a variety of other worldwide producers. This tariff is a major jolt in the arm, major shot in the arm for the domestic steel industry, for our own steel industry, and a further act of protection. And it will indeed temporarily protect the 160,000 or so jobs in the U.S. steel industry. But it will be at the cost, at the very direct cost, of potentially many hundreds of thousands of jobs in other U.S. industries that use steel. Why is that? Well, steel in the United States is going to become more expensive. More expensive steel means all the products that are made from steel, think automobiles, think Budweiser cans, think everything that utilizes steel, construction, in the construction industry. All of these industries will find that they have more important, more expensive core costs, which need to be passed on to the consumers, which in turn will lever down their markets, will slow their sales down. It does not automatically happen that in order to protect the steel industry, if you make cars $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 more expensive, car sales don't remain the same. Car sales will slightly fall. The last time that the United States imposed such a tariff was in 2003 when George Bush did it. And this was also a steel tariff, interestingly. Steel. And in 2003, that tariff led directly to the losses of many hundreds of thousands of jobs in the U.S. economy, and was 3 years later removed by the Bush administration with the slight embarrassment. I think they said at the time, it's done its job. Well, in fact, what it did was to simply shore up the steel companies, not their productive capacity, not their productive efficiency, not their ability to produce competitively with other steel producers in the world. It simply shored up those companies and allowed them to continue highly profitably and to pay their executive salaries and their dividends and so on. So the lobbying was successful, but the industry got no stronger. Bad economic policy. There is basically no modern economist that supports such a tariff. It's a very, very dangerous act. Sorry to be so passionate about it. In the second half of the show, I will speak a little bit more about this and then talk about other economic subjects. We'll be back in a moment.